Learning English can feel like a big challenge, but it's not impossible. When I first started learning English, I was nervous and didn't know where to begin. I was scared of making mistakes, and I thought I would never be good at it. But slowly, I found some simple ways to make learning easier, and I want to share them with you. These are the secrets that helped me improve my English step by step. One thing I learned early is that you don't have to be perfect to start. In the beginning, I made many mistakes. But I realized that mistakes are a normal part of learning. I didn't let them stop me from trying again. Every time I made an error, I learned something new. I began to see mistakes as my teacher, not my enemy. This simple change in my thinking made a huge difference. Another secret I found is to surround yourself with English as much as possible. At first, this was hard because I didn't know many words. But even small things like listening to English songs, watching simple shows, or reading short stories can help a lot. The more you see and hear English, the more familiar it becomes. It starts to feel like part of your life, and that makes learning easier. Speaking is another important part of learning English. This was the hardest thing for me because I was shy and afraid of speaking in front of people. I didn't want to sound silly or say the wrong thing, but I found that the more I practiced, the better I got. Even if I only spoke a few words at a time, it helped me gain confidence. Over time, I felt less afraid to try. I also learned that reading is a great way to learn new words. At first, I only read simple books or articles, but that was enough to help me. I didn't understand everything, but I kept going. I used a dictionary when I needed to, and slowly, my vocabulary grew. Reading also helped me understand how sentences are made, which improved my writing too. Writing was another thing that helped me learn English. I started by writing small things, like diary entries or notes to myself. I didn't worry too much about being perfect, I just wanted to practice using English. Over time, I got better at expressing my thoughts in English. Writing also helped me remember new words and phrases. One of the biggest secrets I learned is that learning a language takes time, and that's okay. It's easy to feel like you're not improving fast enough, but progress is often slow. I found that if I kept going, even when it felt hard, I would eventually see improvement. Patience is key. It's important to remember that every little bit of practice helps, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. Another thing that helped me was setting small, realistic goals. I used to think I had to learn everything at once, but that only made me feel overwhelmed. Instead, I started setting small goals for myself. For example, I would aim to learn 5 new words a week, or to watch one short video in English every day. These small goals were easier to achieve and made me feel good about my progress. I also found that learning with other people made a big difference. I joined a group of people who were also learning English. We practiced together and helped each other. It was great to have support from others who were going through the same thing. Sometimes we played games in English or had simple conversations. This made learning more fun and less stressful. Listening is another important skill that takes time to develop. I used to have trouble understanding people when they spoke fast, but I found that if I listened to English regularly, my ear got better at catching the words. I started with slow, clear speakers and slowly moved on to faster, more natural speech. Over time, I found it easier to understand conversations. Watching movies and shows in English was one of my favorite ways to learn. At first, I used subtitles to help me, but over time, I tried to watch without them. This helped me get used to how native speakers talk. I also learned a lot of new words and phrases that are common in everyday English. It was fun and educational at the same time. One of the secrets to learning English is to stay motivated. It's easy to feel discouraged when you don't see quick results, but motivation will keep you going. I kept reminding myself of why I wanted to learn English in the first place, whether it was for travel, work, or personal growth. Keeping my goal in mind helped me stay focused. Another thing that helped was using English in my daily life. Even small things like thinking in English or naming objects around me in English made a difference. I tried to use English as much as possible, even if it was just in my mind. This constant practice helped me feel more comfortable with the language. I also learned that it's important to take breaks. Learning English can be tiring, especially if you push yourself too hard. I found that if I took short breaks and rested when I needed to, I was able to learn more effectively. It's important to give your brain time to process all the new information. One technique that worked for me was repeating what I learned. If I heard a new word or phrase, I would try to use it several times in different situations. Repetition helped me remember things better. I also reviewed what I had learned regularly to keep it fresh in my mind. Another secret is to not be afraid of challenges. Sometimes I would try things that were a little too difficult for me, like reading a book that was above my level. Even though it was hard, it pushed me to learn more. I didn't worry too much about understanding everything, I just focused on learning as much as I could. Using apps and online tools was also helpful for me. There are many free resources available that make learning English easier. I used language learning apps, watched online tutorials, and joined language forums. These tools gave me extra practice and made learning more interactive. I also made sure to celebrate my progress. Every time I reached a small goal, I rewarded myself. It could be something simple like treating myself to something I liked. Celebrating small wins helped me stay positive and motivated throughout my learning journey. Learning English is like building a house. You have to start with a strong foundation. For me, that foundation was learning the basic grammar rules. At first, I didn't understand why grammar was important, but over time, I realized that it helped me build correct sentences. Knowing the basics gave me the confidence to speak and write without fear. Practicing pronunciation was another important step for me. I used to feel shy about my accent, but then I realized that it's okay to have an accent. The important thing is to be understood. I practiced speaking slowly and clearly, focusing on how the words sounded. Over time, my pronunciation improved, and I felt more confident speaking with others. One trick that helped me was using flashcards. I wrote new words on flashcards and reviewed them regularly. This helped me memorize new vocabulary faster. I also used the words in sentences to make sure I understood how to use them properly. Flashcards were a simple but effective tool in my learning process. Learning idioms and expressions was another fun part of learning English. At first, these phrases were confusing because they didn't always make sense literally. But as I learned more idioms, I started to understand the language better. Idioms added flavor to my conversations and made me sound more like a native speaker. Another secret is to practice thinking in English. This might sound strange, but it really works. Instead of translating everything in my head, I tried to think directly in English. This helped me become more fluent and faster in responding during conversations. It took time, but with practice, it became more natural. I also learned that it's important to stay curious. Whenever I didn't understand something, I would look it up. Whether it was a new word, a grammar rule, or a cultural reference, I made sure to find the answer. This curiosity helped me learn more and kept me engaged with the language. Using English in real-life situations was one of the most valuable learning experiences for me. Whether it was talking to a tourist, writing an email, or asking for directions, real-life practice made the language come alive. It helped me see how English is used in everyday situations and gave me the confidence to use it myself. Another helpful tip is to keep a journal in English. Writing down my thoughts at the end of the day helped me practice my writing skills. It also gave me a chance to reflect on my progress and see how much I had learned. The more I wrote, the better I got at organizing my thoughts in English. One of the most important things I learned is to not compare myself to others. Everyone learns at their own pace, and that's okay. It's easy to feel discouraged when you see others progressing faster, but I reminded myself that my journey is unique. Comparing myself to others only made me feel bad, so I focused on my own progress instead. Staying consistent is another key to learning English. Even if I only had 10 minutes a day, I made sure to practice regularly. It's better to study a little every day than to try to learn everything at once. Consistency helped me build strong habits and made learning a natural part of my routine. Another secret I discovered is the importance of asking for help. When I didn't understand something, I wasn't afraid to ask questions. Whether it was a teacher, a friend, or an online community, there was always someone willing to help. Asking questions helped me clear up confusion and move forward in my learning. One thing that helped me a lot was focusing on listening first. When I was new to English, trying to speak right away felt overwhelming. So I started by listening to conversations, songs, and shows. Listening helped me get used to the sounds and rhythm of English. It also made speaking easier later on because I had already heard how words and sentences are used. I also found that learning English in small chunks was more effective than trying to do too much at once. I would focus on one thing at a time, like learning a few new words or practicing one grammar rule. This made learning feel less overwhelming and more manageable. Small steps eventually lead to big progress. Another tip is to be patient with yourself. There were times when I felt frustrated because I wasn't learning as fast as I wanted. But I realized that learning a language is a long journey and it's normal to have ups and downs. Being kind to myself and recognizing my efforts helped me stay motivated even when things felt difficult. I also learned the importance of practicing with native speakers. At first, this was scary, but I found that most people were patient and happy to help. Speaking with native speakers gave me a real sense of how the language is used and helped me improve my speaking and listening skills. It also made me feel more connected to the language and culture. Watching videos with English subtitles was another great way to learn. I would watch videos on topics I enjoyed and follow along with the subtitles. This helped me improve my listening skills while also learning new words and phrases. Plus, it made learning more enjoyable because I was watching things that interested me. Another important lesson I learned is that it's okay to not know everything. There will always be new words, phrases, or rules that I don't understand, and that's fine. Learning a language is a lifelong process, and there's always room to grow. Accepting that I don't have to be perfect took a lot of pressure off and made learning more enjoyable. Making English a part of my hobbies was another way I stayed motivated. Whether it was reading about my favorite sports team or watching a documentary on something I liked, combining English with my interests made learning fun. It didn't feel like studying, it felt like enjoying my hobbies in a new language. Another tip I found helpful was to repeat words and sentences out loud. Speaking out loud helped me get used to the sound of my voice in English and improved my pronunciation. I would repeat phrases from movies or books to practice speaking naturally. Over time, this helped me feel more confident in my speaking abilities. One of the biggest secrets to my success in learning English was not giving up. There were many times when I felt like I wasn't making any progress, but I kept going. Even on the days when I didn't feel like studying, I would do a little bit. By doing just a little every day, I kept my momentum going, and over time, I noticed the results. Learning a language is like planting a tree. At first, you don't see much growth, but with patience and care, it slowly grows taller and stronger. Another thing that helped me was creating my own sentences with new words I learned. Instead of just memorizing the meaning of a word, I would try to use it in different sentences. This helped me remember the word better and also made it easier to use in real-life conversations. Making the language your own is a powerful way to improve. One useful technique I discovered is shadowing. This means listening to someone speak and then repeating what they say right after them. I would do this with videos or podcasts, trying to match the speaker's pronunciation and speed. This exercise helped me improve my speaking fluency and listening comprehension at the same time. Sometimes I would get stuck on a particular word or phrase, and it would frustrate me. But I learned not to let these small challenges discourage me. Instead, I would move on and come back to it later. Often, after giving my mind a break, the answer would come more easily. It's important to know that it's okay to take breaks when needed.